Good morning, world.
And good morning, Michigan. Rich Kincaid in this morning for Michael Patrick as he goes on vacation, and I get to fill in for a few days. Excited to be with you here on a chilly morning in mid-Michigan and presumably throughout the state as well. It is Firekeepers Friday, and it's Silver Bells here in Lansing coming up tonight. So it's a great day to be right here in mid-Michigan. And if you're listening to us, for example, in Grand Rapids or in many of the other markets around the state, good day to make a trip to Lansing and check out the Silver Bells Festival, a parade, a fireworks display at the state capitol, and the lighting of the Christmas tree on the steps of the state capitol, and entertainment as well. And it all starts at 5 o'clock. So, yeah, as we say, it's going to be a terrific event. I would stick around myself personally, but I have to go to the Red Wings game tonight. The reason being that I was actually going to blow the thing off because I've got it here this morning. Going to be back for the Michigan State-Purdue game tomorrow. But when Minnesota comes in, their broadcaster comes in, he's a man named Bob Kurtz. And some people in mid-Michigan will remember him from his days many years ago when he was the top sportscaster at WKAR. In fact, I got my start in broadcasting because Bob Kurtz was broadcasting Spartan games, and on a Friday he had to leave with the team on a road trip. And about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they asked me, a sophomore work-study student, if I could fill in and do the sports for Bob Kurtz. And that was the first time I was ever on the air. I'll never forget how nervous I was. Only slightly more nervous than I am this morning, as a matter of fact, filling in for Michael Patrick. And it was, well, you never forget your first time. And I owe a lot to Bob Kurtz for giving me that opportunity. So when the Minnesota Wild come in, he's their broadcaster, and I like to go down to the game and chat it up with him. How's it going, Bob? Good to see you, and everything else. And a really super nice guy. So that's what's going on in my world. What's going on in the world? Well, let's check in with Gary Austin at the news desk. And Gary, I imagine the big story continues to be the what is, from all reports, a very successful initial public offering by General Motors as they're back on Wall Street.
Yes, terrific news and long anticipated. And it finally happened yesterday. The GM stock ticker is running again on Wall Street. Stock started trading yesterday. Yesterday morning it all kicked off, not just in the U.S., but Canada too, for the first time since the auto company entered bankruptcy. That's been a long time. We have CEO Dan Akerson telling us the company is moving fast, both optimistic and confident. After the trading day ended, the President Obama, he even talked about this from the White House, about the IPO. He praised GM management and employees for, quoting here, exhibiting real leadership, fresh thinking, and shared sacrifice. The president noted, too, GM, Chrysler, and Ford are posting profits again for the first time in a long time. And the president said the failure of the U.S. auto industry could have caused economic chaos. And I think, Rich, most would agree. And this whole bailout business, I mean, it certainly had its critics. Not so much here in this state, but from lawmakers in other states, congressional lawmakers who many said just didn't have a pulse on how important the auto industry is, not just for Michigan. Imagine all of those jobs that would have been lost and the ripple effect all over America if that had happened. So I'm sure most would agree, based on the way this has shaken out, you couldn't predict it when it happened, when they first started this whole bailout business. But boy, looking back, I think anybody would be hard-pressed to find anything wrong with that whole situation now. Agreed?
Well, I'd like to go and talk to some of those lawmakers, primarily Republicans, who were saying, this is it's not our business to be running General Motors and what have you, and those that voted against the bailout, and see what they have to say now that General Motors and the other companies are paying back those dollars. And it looks at this point now the government has gotten back about $20 billion. They are $50 billion into GM. So the question is whether or not they'll get that remaining $30 billion back. But it looks like they are on track to do so.
Yeah, I would agree, Rich. And it's certainly with the pace, the way this payback business is going is certainly positive. But, there are those in Congress, and you mentioned some lawmakers who voted against it. I bet you if we did go back to some of those and we posed that question you just posed, I bet you there are many who would still say, nope, it shouldn't have been done. But they still contend, the government's business is the government's business and should never, ever start tinkering with the private sector the way the government did most recently here. And remember the Chrysler bailout years ago?
Sure.
When Lee Iacocca was running things. I mean, so it isn't the first time. It worked then, and it worked again. And I think everyone would agree, no matter where you're coming from on the whole economic business involving government getting involved in the private sector, we hope this never, ever happens again. Remember how narrowly close. I mean, we were running stories about how close GM was to folding up completely. I mean, literally going out of business, period. I mean, it was that close. It almost happened.
Well, I'll tell you, Gary, I remember distinctly, just a personal anecdote. I was invited to play goal for a team in a league. They needed a goaltender, so I was the fill-in goaltender, and I'm in the locker room, and I'm introducing myself, and just everybody's exchanging names and pleasantries. And it turned out all these guys worked for Visteon, a major GM supplier, and it was a dark humor in that locker room. They were talking about their stock share, which that day had fallen to 11 cents a share. And every one of those guys, there were probably about 15 of them, every one of them but one had either already received their layoff notice or were expecting to receive their layoff notices, and that's just it's just a little tiny personal story, just a little tiny piece of the entire pie. But they were talking about 500,000 jobs disappearing if General Motors disappeared.
Oh, absolutely, and we've seen, and there are many, I'm sure, listening to this program right now that had worked in the auto industry and faced that very situation, Rich, where they got that pink slip. I mean, a lot of layoffs in this big business in Michigan over the past several years. We just hope that the turnaround is in place, and those who have been on layoff, those temporarily laid off, will get those recall notices soon. We can only hope. High marks. How about this? Boy, the Chevy Volt is really racking up these awards.
Yeah.
Make room on the shelf. Make room on the mantle shelf, because the Chevy Volt has won another one. The Green Car Journal at the LA Auto Show has given this Volt, imagine that, the Green Car of the Year. How about that?
Well, I'll tell you, that has impacted me personally. Another hockey story. I play during the week, a couple of times a week, with guys who are primarily municipal workers for a suburb in Detroit. But one of the guys that skates with us used to play for the Austrian national hockey team. He's 60 years old, and he's one of the best players on the ice, as you can imagine, having played at that level when he was 20 years old or so. But he doesn't play with us anymore because, although he's been retired for a couple of years from GM, they cajoled him into coming back to help matters along. They're building that Volt at the GM Poletown plant in Detroit, and they asked him to come back with his expertise to iron out some of the kinks that they're having, getting that operation back up and running. So we've lost his services for the next couple of months. But he said it was an offer he couldn't refuse. Just by going back to work for 2 months, he told us that GM will be paying him enough that he'll be able to pay his daughter's entire college tuition. What a nice deal that is.
Well, that's terrific. GM is staking a lot, as we know, on the Chevy Volt. I mean, it's looking good. It's racking up the awards, but the bottom line is how many of these babies move out of that showroom. And before long, it's going to be before the end of the year, this Volt is going to be showing up in showrooms, first in Michigan and Los Angeles, and then everywhere else. So we'll see. Hey, you know who's traveling today? Our dear host.
Yes.
Michael Patrick Shields. I wonder if he's going to opt out for the pat down. What do you think?
That certainly has been the item of the last couple of days, hasn't it?
I tell you, every time you turn around in this newsroom, there's another story, and we've got another one here, this one out of Florida, amid the backlash over this new TSA screening business. One Central Florida airport has decided to opt out of TSA screening and go with a private security firm instead. How about that? What next? Those with the airport say, and one of the officials says, quoting here, "You're going to get better service at a better price and more accountability and better customer service this way." He said he'll be sending a letter requesting to opt out officially from any TSA screening from now on. Instead, the commuter airport will choose one of 5 approved private screening companies to take over.
Well, Michael Patrick's on the record as saying that he is, in fact, going to opt for the pat-down so that he can come back and report fully to his audience. He's approaching this from a journalistic point of view, that he's going to undergo the experience so that he can come back and communicate to all of us just what it was like. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'll say that'll be curious. Big local note here in the greater Lansing area, and this story it had been going on for so long, it did get statewide attention. So for those curious, the ongoing contract situation, the talks between nurses at Sparrow Hospital, a big hospital here in the Lansing area, serves a lot of people, and management at Sparrow, late yesterday, they came to terms on a tentative contract, so a strike that was targeted for Monday morning is not going to happen again. Sparrow nurses and management at the hospital have come to terms on a tentative new contract, and that's certainly good news around here.
Yeah, it is, Gary, and we'll get an update on that shortly. Gary, thanks very much. Gary Austin in the newsroom. I'm Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick. A break, and we're going to come back and chat with Ken Dallafour, the former Lion, about the woes of the current footballers. We'll look forward to that. And your life this morning with Rich Kincaid in for the vacationing Michael Patrick Shields. Humor, you say? I have to come up with something funny? Nobody told me that in advance. Well, we'll work on something for you. I love that Rolling Stones song, Can't Get No Satisfaction, is pretty close to 50 years old, and it still is a jam. I mean, that's the thing. But think about that. That song came out in like 65. It's pushing 50. But there you go. You wouldn't know about that, Amanda. I want to say one thing, though, about the party the night before last. You know, and I just had a terrific time, got a chance to meet Jennifer Granholm and congratulate her on what I feel has been a tremendous effort on her part over the course of the past 8 years. And it's always a great thrill when you get to meet a governor. But just as big a thrill to me was seeing Amanda K-Wall in a social setting. And may I say, you were lovely, my dear.
Oh, thank you
You're wearing
very
a
much.
black skirt and a purple top, and you just looked tremendous. And I thought of all the girls there, Amanda was the prettiest.
Oh, thank you.
You were now the fifth woman I've told that to.
I was going to say, I think my mom was probably the prettiest. She was my arm candy for the evening.
I thought she was your sister. Come on, Mom. How about that? So, yeah, it was my favorite part, though, was you were standing there holding a bit of contraband. As I recall, it was a bottle of Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yes.
And I looked at you, I said, where'd you get that? Because it was a great party, don't get me wrong, and they had champagne and they had beer, but I was sort of like in a soda pop kind of mood, you know, and plus I had to drive and whatnot, you know, where'd you get that? And you told me that your mother had smuggled it in.
Yeah.
So, so there you go.
I'm not really a drinker, so she brought me the Diet.
How nice.
Diet Dr.
There we go.
Pepper.
She seems as sweet as you. Well, now we know where you got it. All right. Now, speaking of people we were excited to meet at the party, Ken Dallafour was there. Ken, of course, a regular here on MPS in the morning talking about the Detroit Lions. Ken, it was great to see you again in person. The last time you and I actually looked each other in the eye was no doubt in the Lions locker room at the Pontiac Silverdome almost 20 years ago when you played for the Lions.
It's been a while, Rich. It was great to see you the other night. Amanda looks stunning, and what an event it was for Michael Patrick's book signing and launch.
Yeah, we are absolutely looking forward to the day when we can hold a copy of Invite Yourself to the Party in our hands and become the beneficiaries of Michael Patrick's wisdom. Right now, though, I'm just going back to, as we segue awkwardly into the Detroit Lions, that New York Jets game a couple of weeks ago. I told you I blamed myself personally for the loss because I'm up there in the press box and they were leading 20-10. With about 4 minutes to go, there was an exchange of punts, and the Jets took over, somewhere in the vicinity of, say, their own 35-yard line. The Lions had a 10-point lead, 4 minutes and something to go. And I said to myself, I didn't say it out loud because that would be foolish, but I said to myself, I think they're going to win this football game. And you know, Ken, with the Lions, whenever you so much as think a thought like that, it's the kiss of death. And indeed, the Jets went on, beat the Lions in overtime 23-20, as everybody knows. And what a crusher that was. That could have been a statement victory for the Lions. And people were also thinking, at that point, the Lions would have been 3-5. And then you've got games coming up on the road against a winless Buffalo team, and then the following week against a Dallas team, which at the time was struggling big time. They got hammered by Green Bay that very night, as a matter of fact. And people were thinking, the Lions could come into their Thanksgiving game at 5-5, and what excitement that would be. Instead, sadly, it looks more likely like they're going to come into that Thanksgiving game next Thursday, a 2-8 football team.
Yeah, it was a turning point in the season when they played the Jets. They could have really set the course, had some legitimacy around that win, and as you rolled out the following scenario, which could have been very well could have played out, things changed, and then they lose in Buffalo last week. They play a real dismal game in the sense of a poor start, can't run the ball against the worst run defense in the league, so on and so on. And
the penalties, the penalties as we were talking about, I don't know how many they wound up for the game, but it felt like 15 or thereabouts. Whatever it was way too many for an NFL team.
Yeah, absolutely. They had, I think they had 6 in the first 7 minutes, and
yeah.
I think they had 11 for the game last week. And that's a consistency that they have, unfortunately, because it's, I think, what's keeping them from winning games, the penalties at 4 times, and then poor running game. And when you look at the talent and how they're playing, they're actually not getting beat. They're actually losing the games this year, which is different than it was 2 years ago. But still, nonetheless, the results are the same, and maybe more frustrating because you think and believe they can win like you were at the Jets game with 10 minutes left.
Yeah, and the key play in that Jets game, Drew Stanton on 3rd down and 9 with under 2 minutes to go, and the Jets out of timeouts, and so all you want to do is keep that clock running, and he inexplicably threw a forward pass, an incomplete forward pass, which of course killed the clock, and the Jets got the football back with 1:40 to go instead of getting the football back with maybe 50 seconds or thereabouts remaining. That was a killer for the Lions. And then Julian Peterman's what was he thinking? Personal foul penalty on that ensuing Jets possession that actually got them close enough to kick the field goal that tied the football game. And just a couple of amazing blunders.
Yeah, it plays like a reoccurring nightmare.
Oh, yeah.
And unfortunately, those things are not too unique just to that game. It seems like it's been unique to this season and the Lions of recent years. And so it's one of those things they have to break through. I think I heard Coach Schwartz say that they're used to playing in close games now, but unfortunately they're used to losing those games. They need to change that trend, and wouldn't it be nice if they did that in Dallas with a team that seems to be on the upturn? But that will be an interesting game this Sunday, just from the standpoint to see which team's going to show up for Dallas and which team's going to show up for the Lions.
Indeed, because Dallas was struggling as badly as we've seen a Dallas team struggle maybe since they had their 1 or 2 victory season way back in 1990 or 91, whenever that was. And they just came out last Sunday and lit up one of the best teams in the league, the New York Giants. So now you're thinking, well, great, now the Lions are catching Dallas, not when they're down, but when they're up. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the difference between the 91 team when they had all the losses in Dallas and this team is this one has a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And they should be in the upper echelon of the NFL, and the chemistry wasn't right. And I think Jerry Jones waited too long to change the head coach out, but they have now with an interim, and he's got an opportunity to take over the head job. Garrison does, so he's going to coach him up. He's going to motivate him, and my guess is they'll play a pretty stellar game on Sunday.
Can they in my opinion, they let Matthew Stafford get injured in the season opening game at Chicago when they failed to double-team Julius Peppers, the defensive end that Chicago had signed in the offseason to a $90 million contract for the specific purpose of having him go out and ruin the other team's quarterback, which he did in the first half of the first game he ever played in Chicago. I noticed he also had 3 sacks last night for Chicago in their 16-0 win over Miami. Stafford, of course, re-injured after missing 7 weeks. Was out till Halloween anyways. Re-injured that shoulder against the Jets. We were talking about this. If there's like 3 games left to go in the season and he's ready to come back, do you bring him back, get him a little bit more experience, or do you let him have that shoulder have an opportunity to heal up fully?
Well, I think if it's that late in the season, and there's a couple games left, and there's any question whether he can play or not, you may want to hold him out until next year. Just let him start from fresh sheet of paper, if you will, in the next season. But that's going to be a really tough decision because Matthew's chomping at the bit to play. They want to get him more experience. On the other hand, with a throwing shoulder, and he's a quarterback and he's your franchise, you really have to be careful managing that. That's a tricky piece of decision-making that has to be made.
That's the thing. I think I would have managed him more carefully than the Lions, in fact, have to this point, being that he is, in fact, the franchise. But let's hope he can pull through. And you worry when it's the throwing shoulder. You worry if he's going to be able to come back and be 100% because, boy, he's got a cannon, one of the best arms in the NFL. Anybody can see that. Ken, nice talking with you as always, and maybe we'll see you down there at Ford Field on Thanksgiving Day.
All right. Thanks, Rich, and have a great day. And to all the listeners, happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, and that is right around the corner. We're going to shift gears completely right now and chat for a moment or two with Kelly Rossman, who is joining us now with the latest on the Sparrow Hospital strike. Anytime nurses talk about going out on strike, it's big news, not only in the local area where the hospital is located, but it sends shockwaves through the entire medical community and can have an effect on other communities. Places like Grand Rapids, Detroit, anywhere else in the state of Michigan. Kelly, we understand that as we're joined by Kelly Rossman, the president and CEO of the Rossman Group. Kelly, Gary Austin was telling us a few moments ago that there appears to be good news. It appears that the strike, which could have begun on Monday, will in fact not begin on Monday. Is that true?
You're absolutely right, Rich. Last night, a little after 9 o'clock, we were happy to announce in tandem with the Michigan Nurses Association that the nurses and Sparrow had reached a tentative agreement, that the Nurses Association withdrew their notice to strike. Sparrow, on its end, withdrew its lockout notice. And this will give the opportunity for all of the members of the Michigan Nurses Association to vote on the contract offer. And the negotiating team from the nurses have unanimously recommended that the nurses do support the contract.
What's in the contract that the nurses are going to like?
Well, actually, there were 4 areas that had been of concern all along. I don't have the specifics on the agreement, and frankly, Rich, even if I did, it's really, first of all, fair to the nurses to share it with them before we share it with the public. But there were issues.
Well, I'm a reporter. A reporter's going to ask that question. You know that.
Of course they are, and people like me are going to say, hey, nice try, but the nurses deserve to hear that information first. And, one of the things I think it's really important for all of us to remember is it's pretty easy to talk about contract negotiations in sort of a theoretical way, but this has been extraordinarily difficult. We're talking about the livelihoods of 2,100 individual associates, and
absolutely.
This has not been easy for them at all. So we're very pleased that we came to a tentative agreement. We're excited about the opportunity for the associates to have a chance to review the tentative agreement and to vote on it.
All right, great news, Kelly. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, you bet. Thanks, Rich.
Kelly Rossman, President, CEO of the Rossman Group, the Sparrow Hospital nurses strike. It is not going to happen pending the ratification vote. So the news on that front is good. We'll try to have more good news for you. We're going to talk about GM's initial public offering when we return after the break. Rich Kincaid filling in for Michael Patrick on MPS in the Morning. And we bumper back with Money for Nothing. I think that's Dire Straits, but we're going to check with the booth. We're going to need a booth review on the artist of this particular song. I'm going with Dire Straits on it, though. One of my favorite songs they do, Industrial Disease. 2 men say they're Jesus. One of them must be wrong. All right, let's talk finances with Jamie Westenberger of Forest Hills Financial, Inc. Jamie Westenberger, a registered principal of Invest Financial and the president of Forest Hills Financial, Incorporated. Invest is not affiliated with Forest Hills Financial, and the opinions expressed are those of Jamie and not necessarily those of Invest. We read the disclaimer. We jump right in. GM back in business on Wall Street. Huge news yesterday for General General Motors. Huge news yesterday for the entire state of Michigan.
Absolutely. Good news for the whole country. And just on a side note, it is dire straits, Rich.
All right.
Yeah, but, great news for the market as a whole, the economy as a whole. You got a company that less than 2 years ago was bankrupt and today is, again, a publicly traded company. And, regardless of your politics or how you think about how the process ended, anytime we can get a company back into the black and trading back on the NYSE, we've got to feel good about that as a whole.
Well, I'll tell you what, to me it was, you just had a sick feeling in the pit of your stomach, at least I did, as a lifelong Michigander, thinking that a company like General Motors could possibly go out of business. And when you'd look up, and how low did GM shares go before they stopped trading them on Wall Street? Was it $1 something?
Yeah, I think even under $1 at one point in time.
Man.
And if I could mention something real quick, just to kind of as our own little public service announcement, there was an alert that came out through security channels, and there's a lot of scams going on with the old General Motors shares, which are traded under the Motor Liquidation Corporation, and there's a lot of concern that people that potentially owned the old GM shares could be taken advantage of now with the new GM coming out in the $30 range. And so there was just this kind of a little PSA to the listeners. If you own the old one or somebody talks to you about the old one is now $34 a share, these are two very different stocks. They're completely irrelevant to one another. And so just kind of as a reminder to the average investor to not get those two things confused.
I mean, again, the key phrase right there would be completely irrelevant to one another. You've got to keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
This was the biggest IPO ever?
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly because, of course, we're still settling. The over allotments will take a couple days to come in, but has the potential to be the largest global IPO of all time. Yeah.
I'll tell you what, that's when GM does something, GM does it big. That's always been their hallmark. And
go big or go home, right?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. But what are you looking for in terms of the future of this GM stock? Is it going to just stay at this $33 level, or are products like the Chevy Volt and others going to be able to propel it upwards into the some we're talking $50 range?
Well, a couple things to kind of keep in mind is, number one, the auto industry still has some major challenges ahead of it. We do still have an economy that's on the recovery, but it's still nowhere near where it was. You have still extremely high unemployment. So the prospect of selling a lot of $80,000 Volts is probably not going to happen tomorrow. But the prospects over the long term, we'll keep our fingers crossed, especially being here in Michigan. But one thing to keep in mind with IPOs, Reuters published a really good article yesterday talking about IPOs, and there was a study done by the Journal of Business and Economics Research that found that 80% of an IPO's initial price gain for the year usually happens in the first day of trading, and the next 20% happens within 3 days. So if you weren't in on the original IPO, which a lot of people weren't, the likelihood that jumping in now is going to result in some type of great return for you in the short term is pretty unlikely when you look at the overall history. So not saying you should or you shouldn't buy it, but there's probably some volatility ahead for it, and this is a long-term type of thing that you'd be looking at, not something where you're going to jump in and make a lot of money tomorrow, most likely.
Was this a day trader's dream yesterday? The highest, I don't know how high it got at its highest point, but the highest I heard was $34.89, meaning it was $1.89 higher than it was at the initial offering, and then it wound up settling back around 33. How high did it get, and were people just jumping in, owning the shares for a couple of minutes and then selling?
Yeah, it actually fired up into the almost $36 range. It
Okay.
got all the way to $35.99 at one point.
Wow, okay.
Before finally closing at $34.19, and there is some indication there was probably some day trading going on, just simply from the standpoint of the overall volume in GM stock was twice what the volume of its closest competitor was, which is Citibank. Citibank did half as much volume as GM did, so there's quite a bit of trading going on with it. And one interesting thing to know, a lot of times in IPOs, the average investor gets shut out, and the big brokerage houses are selling this to the institutional investors and the Warren Buffetts of the world, and actually a little over 10% of the initial public offering did go to the average Joe.
There you have it.
Which is
Jamie Westenbarger from Forest Hills Financial. Everybody getting a chance to buy GM. It was back on Wall Street yesterday. We'll take a break. Be back with more on MPS in the morning right after this. It is almost as though they knew somehow in the booth that we're going to be talking about the Silver Bells Festival right now. Rich Kincaid and Amanda K. Wall, the producer of MPS in the morning. And Amanda, you know a lot more about this than I do. It turns out I just missed Silver Bells. This is the 26th anniversary. And I lived here in Lansing until about 1982, so it seems, it appears I missed it by a year or so, but it's just a heck of an event. There's going to be 100,000 people in downtown Lansing tonight for this.
There will be, and there's an electric light parade. It's so dark at night, and there's a competition for the bands. So the local bands around the Lansing area will be lighting themselves up, and they win prizes for who has the best lights, the best costumes. So it's really neat. It always ends with Santa at the end of the parade, and then you follow the parade and you walk down to the front of the Capitol steps. Radio Disney Stars will be doing a performance on the Capitol steps this evening. It will be from 5 to 9. You will see the holiday tree being lit, and then there will be a fireworks display, weather permitting.
Yes, and we think weather will, in fact, permit.
It will, and there'll be free museums, too. So if you get there a little early or you want to step in and out during the parade, the cultural museums around here are having free admission, so you can go in and take your kids and...
Well, I'm coming back for the football game tomorrow. Maybe I'll just grab Laura.
Your daughter would love it.
Yeah.
It's just band after band after band. And it's so cool because they have lights down their arms, and the drums usually say Happy Holidays, on the drums as they're...
See, when I fill in, you guys are nice enough to set me up with a hotel room so I don't have to get up way early. It's like once I'm here at the hotel, it's a 10-minute drive instead of driving an hour and 10 minutes from where I live in Farmington to come in and do the show. And I almost thought about this saying, get me a room for tonight, because I'm staying for I'm going to be back for the Michigan State football game tomorrow. I'll just stay over for that. And if I had done that, I would just brought Laura up and we would just go to this event tonight. But again, maybe I will just drive up with her. It's, an hour drive is no big deal. So and it sounds like it's worth it.
It is the most magical experience when you get to see. The only thing it does is I have one holiday rule, and that is to not play Christmas music before Thanksgiving.
I'm with you.
Because I said if Thanksgiving were a holiday, it would have, if Thanksgiving, the holiday, had feelings, it would be sad all the time because you just kind of skip from Halloween right to Christmas.
Well, let's skip or segue, as we say in the business, to Nancy Kane from the Auto Club from AAA to talk about some of the holiday destinations and some good news for the economy, it appears as well, Nancy. The story out this morning that you're expecting to see a 9% increase in Thanksgiving travel this year as compared to last. And hopefully that can all start tonight with people coming from far and wide to attend the Silver Bells Festival tonight here in Lansing.
Rich, that's totally right. Tonight would be a great time to start your Thanksgiving time right now. And Thanksgiving and Christmas kind of go together. They really do. And we are projecting that 1.3 million of us will be traveling in the state. That is up 9%. And we can thank the improving economy. That's what our survey responders told us. That, the economy is a little bit better. It may not be as robust as it was, but it's a little bit better. People are feeling a little more comfortable, and maybe they haven't seen their family and friends, and it's time to go and spend the holiday with the family. And most of the folks that are going, 94% of them, Rich, are going to be going by vehicle. And that also speaks to the economy, because more are going by vehicle and fewer by air. And again, because it's more economical. If you fly, you've got to rent a car perhaps or not, depending on how far you go.
Mm-hmm.
But this will be a good start to what we think is going to be a great holiday season, Thanksgiving into Christmas, New Year's.
And are we in one of those situations where they suspend road construction traffic statewide so we're able to get around a little bit easier?
Generally, yes, they do, and actually, a lot of the MDOT projects have winded down for the season, so there really shouldn't be any problem. But on the roads, we probably should mention that we've also got Michigan firearm deer season underway. So we're going to have a lot of folks out there because of that. The firearm deer season runs through the 30th. So hunters will be out there, Thanksgiving travelers. So we say allow extra time to get where you're going because there'll be a lot of us on the road.
We are visiting with Nancy Kane of AAA. Nancy, I hope you can tell me that the Thanksgiving holiday is among the safest of the holiday weekends, even though it's the longest holiday weekend, typically 4 days because everybody takes Friday off, or everybody that's not working in retail at any rate. But compared to Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, those are all holidays where we really have to be concerned about people drinking and driving. I'm hoping you can tell me Thanksgiving, not so much the case because there's family involved.
Well, I wish I could, Rich, but unfortunately, for example, last year in Michigan, we had 11 fatalities on our state roads. Yep, and the night before Thanksgiving, it's a very big bar night. A lot of folks head to the bar. Folks, younger folks coming home to be with their friends the night before. So really avoid alcohol. That's a key problem.
Yeah.
And really, too, the other problem you have now that you don't have in the summer months, Rich, is that you could have snowy conditions, icy conditions. You got a lot more driving in darkness than you would, say, July 4th weekend.
Right.
So really, any holiday, you want to be prepared. And make sure your vehicle's in good shape.
Absolutely. Nancy, thanks so much, and here's hoping it turns out to be a great holiday weekend, and when we come back on Monday, we'll be talking about no traffic fatalities in the state during the long holiday weekend. Nancy Kane of AAA, and that's going to take us fairly close to the top of the hour as we continue here on the MPS in the Morning program. I'm RK in for MPS this morning. Rich Kincaid filling in for Michael Patrick. We'll break and we'll be back with so much more right after this. Good morning, Michigan. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick on this Friday. In fact, I'll be with you all next week, leading right up to Thanksgiving Day, which is my personal favorite holiday of the year. And I'll tell you what, if you take a look at me there on television, if you're getting an opportunity to do that, or if you just see me on the streets, it would become readily apparent to you why Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday of the year. But oh, I do love it so, the football and then, of course, the feast. So at any rate, good to be in for Michael Patrick this morning. It's good anytime I can be in for Michael Patrick, although I do feel like I'm filling some large shoes. We're at Michael's book opening, book debut party the night before last. And just to read Michael Patrick Shields' lists of accomplishments in his life, entirely remarkable. And I certainly look forward to getting his insights when I get my copy of Invite Yourself to the Party. And I know it's going to be a great read. And, one thing about Michael Patrick is that, and you would expect somebody to say this because that's the thing to do when you're talking about someone in the public eye, but he is one of the nicest people that I have ever met in broadcasting, one of the nicest people I've met, period, end of story. And it's always a great honor, privilege, and something I very much enjoy when I can fill in for Michael Patrick on occasions such as this. I'm vamping just a little bit because we have lost our producer, Amanda K. Wall, and I feel that this, unfortunately, is my fault. Amanda was nice enough to go next door to the coffee shop to get us beverages, in my case a hot chocolate, and I asked Amanda for something, and as she was reaching for it, she spilled her bevy all over her lovely self, and so she spent the last couple of minutes cleaning up. And by the way, I liked the top you had on before, but that navy pea coat you're sporting now is also really good looking.
I know they have lovely T-shirts down either at the Convention Bureau or the coffee shop next door, so I think I might be going to pick one of those up in just a moment.
All right. So we're just off to a flying start here.
They put me in dance classes when I was in 5th grade because I was clumsy, and I'm just learning to embrace it.
You know what? That's a smart decision on your part. You have to. It's like the Clint Eastwood movie. A man has got to know his limitations. you know, and you have to realize who you are, what you're capable of doing, and in this case, you're capable of knocking over a cup of coffee.
Right, exactly.
So,
as long
yeah.
as it's not on any of the equipment, we're fine.
And you weren't scalded in any way, so you're. I hope.
think I caught it quick enough.
Atta girl. Okay. All right. So we'll get through this crisis, and we'll be able to move on as well. Right now, let's find ourselves joined at the other end of our line by Allison Buckenberg. She's with Delta Vacations, and normally, certainly on an occasion like this, Allison, we would be talking about the busiest travel weekend of the year, and indeed we will be. But boy, oh boy, air travel over the course of the past 2 or 3 days has become the most widely discussed topic in all of America, and not just because people are talking about where they're going to visit Grandma at Thanksgiving this year, but it's the whole issue right now of getting on the airplanes itself.
Yeah, it's true. If you're planning on flying high this holiday season, things are going to look a little bit different at airport security checkpoints.
How
TSA
different
is
are
all
they?
about full body scanners and personal pat downs.
Yeah, what's the airline's official position on this?
I'm not sure exactly what the airline's official position is, but I do know that it's going to be a necessary evil if you're going to want to get on that plane to go visit loved ones or travel over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Have you been surprised at the furor which has been created by all this? It just seemed to just come out of the blue again just in the last few days.
Yeah, you know, you never know how people are going to react to this sort of thing. You have to think back to last Christmas when we learned that someone had tried to bring a bomb on board a plane. And, you know, you never know how people are going to react to things like these. It's a new technology. It's a new security measure. And, of course, it's always met with some sort of speculation. And who knows, the future of this technology remains to be seen, but it's definitely going to take a lot more time if you're going to travel.
Speaking of which, we're already talking about this being the busiest travel weekend of the year. Do I have that right?
That's very right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Delta, I know, is just packed to the brim. Their flights are very, very full, which is a good thing.
Well, it is a good thing, but nonetheless, I think in years past, the advice would be to get to the airport maybe even a couple hours before your flight departed so you could make it through security. With these enhanced procedures, do they have to show up even earlier than that?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say you're definitely going to want to get there a little bit earlier. It is rumored that some folks are planning to just
boycott.
Not go through yes, exactly. They're going to boycott and they're going to do the pat downs instead, which I'm not sure if you've ever opted for the pat down, but it takes significantly longer.
See, I get patted down, for example, when I enter Ford Field for a Lions game. It's not that. I've never found it to be terribly intrusive. It's something that you're not used to, but I have a feeling the pat down to get on an airplane is going to be more. I don't want to say invasive, more thorough is the word I'm looking for. Once you're trying to get on an airplane, can you describe the pat down process for us?
Yeah, I've personally been through it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's they run their hands up and down the insides and outsides of your legs, your arms. As a woman, they run it around that area, your upper chest, and certainly it's not just the normal like you're getting into a football game, touch the front, touch the back, you're set to go, because they're checking. I mean, a man smuggled something in his underwear. They have to check that area now. People are daring and they try lots of things, and so that's just unfortunately one of the things that the TSA is doing to make sure that we're safe is to check all those areas.
So,
in other body scanners, they're not that bad, and until people get used to it, or if they do make a change, it's what's there. So.
Yeah, it is. All right. Well, let's. It is what it is, and I think people are going to find out in large numbers come this upcoming week exactly what, in fact, it is. Let's talk in terms of holiday travel itself. Once you're on the airplane, pardon me, how difficult is it at this late date to book a flight and get off to where you want to be?
For Thanksgiving, yeah, it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I don't know. I'm kind of an optimist anyway, and where there's a will, there's a way. So, if you're still thinking of traveling to your grandma's or to your aunt's or to wherever you're going to be for Thanksgiving, it's worth a shot to try it to see your family over the holiday season. It may be a bit difficult, especially with flight loads filling up, but I would say if you can't get there for Thanksgiving, there's still time to get there for Christmas or any of the other upcoming holidays.
So there's an option there, again, that it may be booked here at Thanksgiving, maybe not for a month from now.
It's true.
Are there many people who opt not to travel home for Thanksgiving, but to use this as an opportunity to take a separate, distinct, non-Thanksgiving vacation?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to get out of Dodge around the Thanksgiving time frame. They're going to go to like Cancun, or a lot of people go to Vegas, or the beaches are definitely a popular one, especially with the cold weather and the snow that we have.
Are there destinations right now during Thanksgiving weekend, because it is Thanksgiving weekend, that you can get a special low fare to get to?
Yeah, if you're going to fly out of the country, especially if you're going to go to Mexico, it's 45% cheaper. The flights are cheaper, the hotels are cheaper, and that's a very non-traditional destination versus people in the Midwest trying to get home to larger cities, or people in larger cities trying to get home to smaller cities.
And sometimes the non-traditional is, the more memorable.
It's true. Yeah, why not grab the family and spend Thanksgiving on the beach? That sounds great to me.
Right, and sadly, there are people out there who don't have family to go visit, so they do have an opportunity here with an extended weekend to get away for a few days.
Yeah, take a great vacation, relax, put your feet up. Everybody else is traveling around this time frame, so why not join in the fun?
I found myself in Phoenix when I was a hockey announcer. We were there on Thanksgiving weekend for a pair of games against the Phoenix Roadrunners back in the International Hockey League days. I'll never forget it. I had my Thanksgiving dinner at a 7-Eleven, a sandwich out of the shop there. But you know what? It turned out to be a fun weekend. Not exactly traditional, but I will never forget that sandwich. Hey, Allison, thanks so much for the update and the information. Let's hope all goes smoothly in this upcoming week for you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. Have a good one.
Allison,
and have a happy holiday.
Well, thank you. You too. I appreciate that. Allison Buckenberg, Delta Vacations PR specialist, with some travel tips, and very timely ones at that. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick Shields here on Friday. We'll be back with more as we continue right after this. The bumper music guy is just on his game today. There's no question about that, all right? We're not talking about a white wedding, but Nikki Hale is here, our world correspondent. Nikki, always good to see you.
Yes, good to see you too. How are you doing?
I'm fine. You?
Good. I was watching this morning. You're doing a fantastic job as usual.
Oh, come on.
No, I'm serious.
You had a different station going.
No.
Oh, my.
I
well,
religiously watch Michael Patrick. I have to, right?
Well, thank you. Well, one would to stay in touch. All right, royal wedding coming up. I asked you in the break if this is the first royal wedding since Lady Diana became Princess Diana, but I missed one in the sequence.
Yeah, well, there was Sarah Ferguson after that.
Right.
But, not as memorable, not as big, and I think mainly because, she didn't marry the next for the throne, next king, and Charles is. So I think that was why that was a bigger event. And plus, there had not been a royal wedding for so long when Charles and Diana got married, so it was just massive. So I think, but this is more like what we're going to see. We're going to see a better reaction in this side, I think.
When we say this, tell us exactly what it is we're talking about.
William and Kate Middleton, their marriage next year, which we don't have a date for yet, and we're looking at spring, early summer is what we understand. So planning is underway.
Are they likely to be bumped by another couple who's already reserved the date?
Unlikely. I mean, the two locations they're looking at are two very, very, very difficult places to get into. I mean, literally royal family, and that's pretty much it. You have to have a lot of influence to get into.
Sure.
So where Diana and Charles were married originally, and then also where Diana her funeral was held. So
Well, I thought they did everything at Westminster Abbey.
not necessarily. No.
Okay.
But that is probably one of the main choices. Yes.
Because during Pledge Drive, down on the public station in Detroit, they were showing footage from the, is it the coronation of the Queen?
Yes.
Yes. And that was back in 1951, I think, roughly 51, 52, something in that area. It was a pretty, well, I don't want to say pretty. It was a remarkably ornate ceremony to coronate Queen Elizabeth.
Yes.
And so I just got the impression that all official functions of this nature would be at Westminster Abbey.
I think the majority of them are. But this is being a sort of religious ceremony, being a wedding. That would probably be one of the places to hold it.
Well, see, I thought Westminster Abbey was kind of a religious place.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, but I'm saying they might have other options,
sure.
On what they want to do. So I don't think they're trying to give anything away as well at the time. I think they're trying to keep the plans a little bit private, the same way they kept the engagement private for a little while.
Well, that never works. I mean, there's still paparazzi out there,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
And that's something that they were discussing on the morning shows here in the United States. Kate Middleton, until now, we've always known she's been Prince William's girlfriend, right? It's been years. I think 8 years they've been going out. They had a little bit of a breakup, but we've never, ever heard her talk publicly. We've never really heard from Kate Middleton until now, and she's now going to have to step into that spotlight and be like, okay, yes, I'm a person, I can talk, I have a life, and take on that role. So it's going to be a lot how she manages.
How's she doing so far?
Well, she's lovely. She's very down to earth. I think she's very well spoken. She doesn't seem to be, interested in all the pompous stuff. She's just, we're in love. We've been together for a long time. This is a day for us. We want everybody to enjoy it with us. And I think that's what they're trying to think of. And they are considering the economy a lot, which is very good.
Well, speaking of which, you just told me in the break that this wedding is going to cost £50 million.
Yeah, that's.
And I asked you how much that is in money.
Right? In real money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money for a wedding. You're right. It's about something around $74 million. But that being said, you've got to think of the
That's
guest
a lot
list.
of money for anything.
Right, but you've got to think of the guest list that's going to come to this wedding, security that's going to be involved with that. That's going to be a huge bill.
Yes.
And clearly, it's not going to be any old person that's going to design the dress. And there's going to be, security not just for the people, but for the jewels. I mean, the Queen will wear jewels. A lot of people were wearing very expensive jewels. So there's going to be a heavy amount of it in that area. And then the catering.
So Kate's dad is on the hook for this because the bride's parents have to pay, right?
Right, that is
Yeah.
the usual. It doesn't look likely. No, it looks like.
I should think not. I'd be taking a
I was
meat
like,
cleaver to
Kate,
some of this stuff.
Love you, honey, but Dad really is not going to be prepared for this one.
Yeah, we're really going to head down to City Hall here,
Right,
and yeah.
we're moving to another country. I think the Queen and Prince Charles are stepping up for this. Whether or not it's going to be actually £50 million, we don't know. This is obviously media speculation at this point. I mean, who knows?
Ultimately, though, that's tax dollars, correct?
A lot of it is, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of it is paid by the,
What do the British people get for their $73 million?
They get a fabulous event on television because they don't get invited. Oh, they get to go outside and see it. Pride, national pride. I mean, there's a big enthusiasm around this. You've got to think that it's like being back in the 1980s if you think about it. There was an economic downturn in the 1980s. We had the royal wedding. We had Tories, which is like your Republicans and Democrats. We had them in power in England at that time. So it's almost like we've got a little flashback and we're going through that all again. And Diana's wedding definitely brought a positive impact to the nation at that time, and I think this wedding is going to do the same thing.
Okay, you understand it's at least difficult. Now, my wife is a big fan of the royals. She eats that stuff up. Me, not so much. And I sort of have a hard time, wrapping my head around the whole idea of a monarchy. I realize that it's essentially in name only at this point. I mean, the Queen can't order someone to be beheaded like the good old days.
No, she cannot. But she is heavily involved in what happens in politics, and she does have an opinion. And I think what you'll find is the Prime Minister will consult with the Queen or will inform her of what is going on, and they will value very much what she says.
How accurate was that movie about Tony Blair and the Queen that was out a couple of years ago? Because I just caught it on HBO maybe a month or two ago, and I really enjoyed it.
You did. I haven't seen that one. I know I watched Ghostwriter, which is about Prime Minister, but I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, they were all Tony Blair and his wife were very nervous after he had won the election, because according by custom and
Yes.
perhaps by law, he has to. The newly elected prime minister has to ask the Queen's permission to form a government. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, there's still a lot of tradition there. Yeah, I mean, even though the Queen has moved on with times, as we learned, was it a week and a half ago that she's now on Facebook?
Oh, really?
Yes, you cannot friend her. You can like it. It's more of a
Sure.
a professional page, and I think it was a matter of 2.5 days, and she had over 200,000 followers.
Wait till she starts twittering.
Exactly. And she's a big fan of technology. I mean, we've seen several instances where she's met with people from Google and different people that are, very forefront of technology, and she's had very insightful questions, and she enjoys that. So I think although she's very traditional and she's held to those traditions, she's still very, forward thinking as a queen. So
There you go. Now, Prince William, where does he come in terms of succession?
okay, so Prince Charles is next in line for the throne, and then Prince William is after him. But for a long, long period here, they've been talking, is Prince Charles even going to think about taking the throne? So that's why there's a lot of enthusiasm around William, because if Charles chooses to say, you know what, I'm not interested, it goes directly
You
to
can
William.
do that?
Not just like that, no. I don't think it's a question of just saying, hey, I'm no longer going to be king, but yes, technically he can choose to not be king, yeah.
Has anybody done that since, now I'm just drawing a blank, the guy in the 1930s?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Who was that guy that I'm thinking of? Who abdicated the throne for love of a woman? He was in love with an American or some such thing, and
Was that the 1930s? I don't know if that was the 1930s. I mean, and Queen Elizabeth took over due to her being the next successor.
but that's because her dad died.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking many, long time ago when.
Duke of Windsor. That's what
it
I'm talking
could
about.
be.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of history to do
Yes.
with the church and how things go. So.
Yeah, no, it was. He was next in line to become king, and he decided he wasn't going to be king, and it was.
Well, I'm sure.
Pretty. It was a pretty big story.
I'm sure it's like politics. There's a lot of fine print, and you are able to.
Why would Charles
move around things and do them as they benefit you?
Why would Charles not want to be king? Because if they asked me if I wanted to be king, I'm pretty sure I'd say yes.
You would.
Well, it's easy to get a tea time. You're king. You can go out anytime you want, any golf
Right.
course, what have you.
True.
You don't have to wash the car, cut the grass, things of this nature. I think I'd make a fine king.
I don't think he does that as prince, to be honest.
Well, you know what? That's probably true.
I think
Yeah.
he probably has a pretty good time as prince too. I mean, I don't know why he would not want to.
Yeah.
Maybe he considers his son to be more popular, and thinks that'll be a better benefit to the royal family to have William take over as opposed to himself. I mean, he's been through some turmoil as far as public opinion about him, and he's back on top now. He does a lot. I mean, Prince Charles does a lot for England as far as advocacy around farming and things that you probably don't hear much about over here. So, I mean, he's a very good man, and maybe it's just what he does. He's happy doing what he's doing. But I don't know. It might be that he will take over. But see, Queen Elizabeth is going so strong. She's so healthy that we don't foresee her.
Which
saying
is
all of a
fairly
sudden-
remarkable. She's been queen for 53, 54 years now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's going strong. So.
Absolutely. All right.
Yes.
Well, listen, I appreciate. Always good to see you, Nikki. I
Yes.
enjoyed seeing you at the party the night before last at Michael Shields' event, and I always enjoy having you on the air. And I apologize for my ignorance when
Oh,
it comes
no.
to matters of England, and I appreciate your enlightening me.
Hey, no problem. It's the topic of the day, isn't it? Really, this whole wedding.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
guess it
very
will be.
interesting.
All right, excellent. We'll talk to you soon. All right,
Okay,
and
thanks.
enjoy our American Thanksgiving. Do they have Thanksgiving in England?
They do not.
Well, you should.
Well, it's an American thing, isn't it? It's not.
Well, it does go back to us meeting the Indians and colonizing and what have you. But
Right.
there's certainly things over there you can be thankful for.
Oh, heck yeah.
There you go. All right, Nikki Hale, our world correspondent, with us here on Michael Patrick Shields in the morning. Rich Kincaid filling in for Michael Patrick, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right. Hi again, everybody. Rich Kincaid in for Michael Patrick on this Friday. I'll be with you Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, as well as Michael Patrick is off to exotic locales. Nikki Hale, our world correspondent, stays with us in the studio. The good news there is I get to say goodbye to you twice.
There you go.
Because I had already dismissed you previously, but you're going to hang around.
And then Amanda told us, please stay.
Yeah, exactly. And
There you
for
go.
good reason, because speaking of things British, what's more British than J.K. Rowling's and Harry Potter?
My favorite.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, we were talking about it, and we're going to be joined momentarily by Ron Van Timmeren from Celebration Cinema to talk about the movie version. And I know there were a lot of kids who were in line at midnight last night, school night or no, to be the first to see the new movie. But I remember when my daughter was young, and I mean second, third grade young, that when a Harry Potter book would come out, we would be at the bookstore. They typically would have some sort of a costume party or what have you that would begin at 6 or 7 o'clock for the midnight release of the book. Exactly.
Right. Not even the movie, the book.
The book. and you will remember when those Harry Potter books started coming out that there was a tempest in a teapot, a minor controversy from some people who said, oh, these are bad, they promote witchcraft. But I'm telling you what, when Laura would get her hands on one of those books, she'd bang that thing out, 800 pages or whatever it would happen to be, in a week to 10 days. And I was so delighted that she was honing her reading skills at such a young age. I just thought they were just the greatest. I mean, it just beat the heck out of Cat in the Hat.
Right, I know. You were amazed that you gave an 800-page book to a child, and then 2 weeks later, you're like, where's your book? You've lost interest? No, I finished it. There was
Exactly.
chapters over chapters every night.
Yeah.
And so very amazing.
And
yes.
couldn't wait for the next one to come out. And
No.
the only problem is those books sold so many millions and millions of copies. I know we have a complete unabridged set on our bookshelf.
Right.
And you'd think at some point, Laura will grow up and maybe you could sell those on eBay or what have you, and they'd be worth a lot. But I think there's so many of them out there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. It's whether or not you got the nice initial offerings of the book sets, when they all came out in a case. And those were quite nice after she'd finished all the books. So,
yeah.
I mean, some of those might be worth something.
Well, I'll tell you, I think what they're going to wind up being worth is an educational opportunity for my grandchildren.
There you go.
And then that's just fine with me. Ron, on the other end of our line right now over at Celebration Cinemas, how'd the big midnight opening go last night?
Hey, Rich. Hi, Nikki. It was officially a phenomenon. I know CNN.
Now, how do you quantify that?
$2 million midnight. Pardon me, the shows only, and that's a new record. At Celebration Cinemas, we had over 16,000 people at our theaters watching Harry Potter at midnight last night. 67 shows across the circuit sold out. It's just an unbelievable start, and it's a pretty cool movie.
So it sounds like I was the only person that wasn't there last night.
Yeah, well, Nikki, we understand some people have to sleep and go to work the next morning, and kids are going to be a little bleary-eyed at school. They were all students. I swear, looking at the crowd last night, all those kids are supposed to be in school this morning. I wonder if some of them made it. 16,000?
Is that the biggest night you've ever had?
Yeah, that beat out Eclipse from earlier this summer, which I thought was a phenomenon in and of itself, but this beat that by about 20%, and so we're officially kicked off. Obviously, this is the Deathly Hallows Part 1. This is rated PG-13. The last two have been PG, so they kind of a little bit more intense and adult-like, if you will. Of course, our main three characters out there trying to find Lord Voldemort's Horcruxes, and then there's some pretty weird and cool stuff that goes on during the movie, and a great cast, still some of the best character actors from the UK you can imagine. Ray Fiennes, Bill Nighy, Helena Bonham Carter, Miranda Richardson, David Thewlis, Alan Rickman, Brandon Gleeson. I mean, these movies aren't cheaters, man. They really put it up there on the screen.
So, Ron, how would you rate this film compared to the other ones?
Well, honestly, Nikki, I was a little more lost this time than before, and since it's got to end, in the middle somewhere here, it's you get to the end and you're like, what? Wait, why now?
Right.
So I can't wait for the final part 2 next July, and hopefully that'll tie it all up for me.
So you must have not read the books then.
I have not, and it'd be a big advantage if you did. You're really going to find more to the movie, and they did not leave anything out, I'm told.
Really? So.
Well, you got to like that. 16,000. I just can't get over that. And one expects that you're going to have a pretty good week while this is out in first run release.
Yeah, but you know what? We loaded up on prints at all the Celebration Cinemas. The IMAX tickets will be very tough to get this weekend, so you should go to celebrationcinema.com or your theater's local box office to pick those up in advance for the IMAX showings. But we got lots of prints. That's the beauty of digital cinema. We just keep adding auditoriums as need arises. So they're tracking this to do between 120 and 130 million this weekend, which and today may be a new single-day record for Harry Potter as well.
That's amazing. Ron, thanks very much. We appreciate the update on Harry Potter. It just goes on and seems to get more popular with each passing release, be it a book or a movie. Ron, thanks very much. Nikki, thanks again. Way to hang in there. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to seeing you soon. And
yes, you too.
Rich Kincaid for Michael Patrick. And tell you what, we've got a star coming into the studio. I'm pretty excited over here. We'll have that for you next. You are listening to a rising star, Josh Golden, who will be performing tonight. He's with Radio Disney, busting out on his own at the tender age of 16. And he's going to be all part of the Silver Bells Festival tonight, performing, as we say, on the Capitol steps. Josh, great to meet you. Thanks for coming by. 16 years old, and here you are, a star. And it's I was asking you if your experience was like that movie, The Thing You Do, which was a movie, a popular movie about a little band from outside Pittsburgh, and they had a hit single, and the next thing you know, they're out in Hollywood performing on the Ed Sullivan Show. Is your rise to fame been meteoric in that sense?
It's been crazy, man. Good to meet you too, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, mine started online though. Yeah, with MySpace and Twitter and Facebook, and it kind of blew up virally. And then I've been touring around a lot, so it's a little different than that. And I'm not a drummer. I can't play drums that well, but I do sing and play guitar.
Do you like Spartacus?
Do I like Spartacus?
But that's to me, when you said that it went viral, I hadn't even thought about how young musicians get their start these days. Back in my day, it would be a garage band, and you literally would have to have an agent or somebody representing a radio station hear you, like you, put your song on the radio, and now, boy, you can do that yourself.
Yeah, it's really changed the music business, so it's cool. I don't know. You got a MySpace? You do music?
I do indeed. Yeah, but
you got an agent?
No, but but I do have like 4 friends, including Tom.
There you go.
Yeah. So,
man, you're friends with Tom. That's pretty intense.
I know. I like that.
He's pretty famous.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe the most famous one-named person in America, as a matter of fact.
I know, right?
How many friends do you have on your MySpace?
I have over 100,000 and something like that.
So
Tom's in there somewhere.
I'm only like 99,900 something behind you.
We'll get you there. We'll get you there.
Man, that's going to be nice. Listen, I understand you've got a moment here. You're going to favor us with a tune.
Yeah, I am.
Pretty excited about that.
Play a song acoustic for you.
All right.
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
Right.
Amanda's getting the guitar ready to go. I always say on this particular program, when I'm filling in for Michael Patrick, the less talking I have to do, the better off we all are. So we're excited to have you here with us this morning, and take it away, Josh Golden.
All right, I'm gonna play this song. It's called "Feels Like Christmas," and it's my Christmas song that I wrote. So I'll just play you a little preview so you can get ready tonight. And it's cold outside in this snowy weather, but I hold on to you and I am feeling better, 'cause you warm me up like the hot chocolate in this cup. We're burning up, and I think it's safe to say we're falling in love, like the snowflakes that are falling from above. And you were waiting for me right under that Christmas tree, and you are looking so fine in those red and green colors, with my hands on your hips and yours on my shoulders. We can dance all night under those Christmas lights, 'cause it's true. Whoa, whoa. Girl, I need you to know this. All the things you do makes you feel like Christmas and you. Whoa, whoa. I just hope that you notice with all the things you do, it feels like Christmas. So there's a little preview for you, so you can get in the spirit.
Outstanding.
Right? Awesome.
Outstanding. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we got the audience. That's
You
awesome.
betcha. Now, there's going to be 100,000 people down there tonight to watch you perform. Is that going to rank among your larger crowds?
Yes, it is actually. So that's a lot. Hopefully they can clap louder than that, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they will. Although hands may be cold by that time, but I think things will work out.
I was freezing coming out today,
I
but
heard now you're from Missouri. It gets cold there, right?
it gets a little cold, but we stay indoors, you know.
Yeah.
So, but no, walking out today, like, have you ever got so cold where your back starts to hurt?
No.
Like, that's weird, right? Like, I don't think that's good. Like, my back started hurting, like, cause like I guess my muscles got like so tense back. I don't know.
Well, let's
but
get you back to the hotel. Now, what are you going to do the rest of the day between now and 6 o'clock when you perform?
I think we got another interview.
Okay.
And, then we're going to go over some stuff with my band to
Yeah.
practice some stuff acoustic, because we got a lot of stuff tonight. We're going to play some Christmas songs. We're going to play some original stuff off the album. Going to play some new stuff. So it's going to be really cool. So we're going to go over a few more things at the hotel.
Well,
So-
Josh, it was delightful to meet you.
Thank
I
you, man.
wish you the best of luck. It's just tremendous. 16 years old, your whole future out in front of you, and I hope you wind up as big as they come.
Sweet. That thing you do is what we're going for.
All right, and before you go, if you've got a picture, a promotional picture, if you could sign up my daughter Laura.
For sure.
If I go home without one, I'm going to be, well, I'm just not going to want to go home.
I'll get you one, Laura. I'll get you one.
All right, thanks, Jess. Thanks so
Awesome.
much. Best
Thanks
of
so
luck.
much.
Josh Golden, everybody, is going to be at the State Capitol tonight as part of Silver Bells, and obviously, definitely, a treat to have him here in our studio this morning. All right, we're going to take a break. Going to come back and talk Spartan football. All right, I like talking Spartan football. Greg Johnson will join us from the Grand Rapids Press as we continue here on Michael Patrick Shields in the Morning.